Welcome back to Orphan Car Garage. This, of course, is my YouTube channel. My name is John. I'm located in Pembroke, Massachusetts, which is about an hour or so south of the city of Boston. Now, the car in front of me is a hard one for me to film and advertise for sale. If you've watched my introduction video that I recently posted about my business, if you haven't watched that, I suggest you do. It's probably 2 or 3 videos down. Kind of describes me and how I got into the business. I talk about this car and how it was a bucket list car of mine and how it was a personal vehicle of mine and in my own personal collection. And I even said in the video at the time, for now. Well, the time has come now for it to move on to its next caretaker. Many reasons for that, mostly being limited space. And the fact that I've owned this car a couple years and it deserves more than I've been giving it. It's just been sitting around a lot as other projects take over, and of course the business is very busy, so my own stuff tends to lag behind. This car deserves more. I love orphan cars, hence my name, Orphan Car Garage. This to me exemplifies orphan cars. This is an Edsel. This is an orphan brand by every description. And I do mean brand. It wasn't a Ford Edsel, it was an Edsel. Edsel was its own division of Ford, if you didn't know that already. Meant to compete with GM, introduced to compete with GM and their tier of brands that you could work through. Chevy all the way up to Cadillac. Ford didn't have that luxury. They would lose their buyers to GM because they didn't have enough brands. They thought by adding the Edsel brand to fill the void between Ford and Mercury, it would help compete with GM. Obviously, it was a dismal failure. I think Ford lost $350 million on the project, which in today's dollars would be billions of dollars. So it was a big failure, even one of the biggest automotive failures to date. Why is that? Well, people call it a lemon. It's not a lemon. It wasn't any less reliable than any other American car on the road in the 1950s or 1958. Styling, well, maybe a little controversial, but it wasn't even all that. It had a lot going against it right from the start. Number one, it was introduced in 1958, and the United States was in the middle of a bad recession that year. So car sales in 1958 were dismal to begin with. Not a good year to introduce a brand new car. Also, the pricing of this car. Ford kind of fumbled a little bit. It turned out to be priced right around the same as a Mercury. And a lot of Mercury dealers sold Edsels. They opened up Edsel franchises themselves. So they found themselves competing with themselves with this car. Buyers would come into the showroom and they could buy a Mercury or an Edsel for right around the same price. Edsels were available in many different platforms, two different frameworks. There were junior cars and senior cars. There was Rangers and Pacers and Corsairs and Citations. There were Villager wagons. There were convertibles. I mean, you name it. There was a whole line of these cars that buyers could choose from. And I think things just got a little too confusing and in some cases maybe a little too pricey. Yes, the styling. A lot of people made fun of the grill on this car, calling it an Oldsmobile sucking a lemon. It was controversial, but certainly cutting edge. I think it's beautiful, actually. Edsel was built for 1958, 59, and there was just a few 1960 models that were built before production ended in November of 1959. And those 1960 Edsels really just look like a washed over full-size Ford. 58 to me exemplifies Edsel. It's my favorite of the 3 years, although I like them all for different reasons. But to me, the 58, and that being one of the main reasons right there, the Teletouch drive, which was so innovative, to me, that puts this car on the map. This particular car is exactly what I love in my own collection. This is a low mileage, and I'm apologizing for the wind, guys. I just can't avoid it this time of year. It's either got rain or you got wind. Sometimes you have both. I chose the sun over the rain, but we got to deal with the wind, so I apologize for that in advance. This is a low mileage original car that I purchased about 2 years ago out of the Midwest portion of the United States. Only 25,000 miles on this car. And it was basically backed up by the fact that I was able to do some research on the car. The Edsel Club of America knows about this car. They had a known history of this car dating back to 1970 when it was actually listed for sale out in California. I talked to a gentleman that owned this car about 10 or 12 years ago. He bought it from an old timer that absolutely testified to the mileage. I didn't even need to know that, because when you look at this car and you examine this car, it is every bit a low mileage car. Everything we're looking at right now is original. We're looking at original paint. This is a beautiful turquoise, and that's what Edsel called it, turquoise. I was hoping they'd called it something fancier, something more glamorous, but they just called it turquoise. I went around this car with a paint meter, and everything was within spec of original. It's not perfect. There's some cracking. This is not rust, so this is cracking, and that's factory primer that we're seeing exposed. That is not rust, but there is some cracking of the paint here and there. This is what, 70-year-old paint, 65-year-old paint. That was a snow white roof. I believe they called that snow white, with that snow white scalloping. Turquoise and white, to me, is the perfect color combination for these cars. We've got original chrome. The front bumper has a little bit more deterioration than the rear. But here's the rear while we're here, just in case I forget to bring it up later. The backup lights, there's the E. There's a lot of E's on this car to remind you what you're driving. Same over here. The E in the backup lamp, so cool. The chrome back here is really good. Again, we got some dual exhaust that I was gonna ditch. Some former owner put cherry bomb exhausts on it with those stupid pea shooter dual exhausts. Those were gonna go. Those are an easy fix. This car needs to go back to the way it was built. And that's really the only thing about this car that is not correct, is the exhaust. And to me, that's a non-issue because it's so easy to fix. And that was my plan. Again, Edsel. Lots of reminders of what you're driving. Edsel. No rust on this car whatsoever. Check out the website, orphancargarage.com. Tons of pictures. So clean. I wish I knew what it was about this car that made the original owner preserve it. Because let's face it, in the 1960s, when these cars were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, they weren't getting any respect. A little bit more cracking here, not as bad as the other side, but again, original paint. You just kind of see it there. There's some flaws. I would take this any day over a repainted car. A little more here. That's all original. We've got the pickles, the emblems for the Edsel emblems. We call those pickles. Everywhere you look on this car, there's a reminder of what you're driving. Nice glass. We see here a little bit more here, a couple little cracks here. Very minor. I'm being fussy, but it's an original car, so it's certainly nothing I wouldn't expect. A little bit more up here on the eyebrow of the front passenger headlight. We've got some cracking of the paint here. Some of the paint's worn down to the factory primer. Again, that's not rust. That's factory primer under there. And then some wear there on the paint there. I'm assuming those might be stone chips or something on both sides. But again, they're only original ones. And then the top of this bumper has just some minor pitting on the top of the bumper here on the driver's side. Very little to none on the passenger side. So that may have been how it was stored at one point. It affected only the driver's side, but overall not bad. I absolutely would not touch this car. This is a preservation piece for sure. That Edsel grill with that gold Edsel emblem. Another reminder, that Edsel hood ornament. Those are very hard to find, and that one's in fantastic condition. Nice headlight bezels. A little bit of corrosion on the chrome bumper grills, I'm sorry, but not bad. You might even be able to hit that with some steel wool. I just want to show you everything. But boy, just step back and look at this car. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's literally stopping traffic on the street as people drive by. It has the optional spinner color keyed full wheel covers, which are really cool. Again, with the E, We've got some BFG Silvertown reproduction tires, probably from Coker. I couldn't find a date on them, but let's assume they're old. This car has done a lot of sitting around over the past several decades, including with me. So we're going to assume those tires are well over 10 years old. They're not cracked. They look great. They hold air nice. I haven't had to add any air in these tires, but they're old. There's no doubt in my mind they've got to be old. Clean, clean, straight body. With the wheel well in there. Just so clean. This car was built, one of the reasons why I bought this particular model is this particular car as well. This car was actually built in Massachusetts. Ford had a plant in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's now known as Assembly Row. There's a lot of apartments and retail stores and restaurants in that area. And there's actually a sort of a memorial to Edsel there. The hotel that's in Assembly Row has an Edsel on display. See, Edsels were built here in Somerville for a very short period of time in 1957 as the car was introduced to the public. Ford, don't forget, expected that Edsel would sell about 200,000 of these the first year. About 200,000 units were projected to be sold for the 1958 model year. That fell way short at about 63,000 and change that were actually sold. So the production started to cut down fairly early when sales didn't take off like they had hoped. However, Somerville built the most of the bigger bodied cars like we have here in front of us. This car, by the way, I haven't mentioned it yet and I apologize, is a Corsair. So this is the second tier down from the top Citation. So this is the larger bodied, larger framed car. They call that the Senior Series. And the Senior Series cars were the Corsair and the Citation. Corsairs and Citations in 1958, most of those were built here in Somerville. About 11,500 of the 63,000 sold cars were built in Somerville. This happens to be one of those. I'm from Massachusetts, and I kind of wanted an Edsel that was built in Somerville. This is, in fact, a Somerville-built car. It ended up in the Midwest, West Coast, which that is not uncommon. I mean, they built these cars to be shipped all over the country. So it didn't spend its life in New England, but it was built in New England, and it kind of made a homecoming to New England a couple years ago when I bought it. I think I bought this car out of Minnesota, Montana, something like that. I'd have to check. But it was with a collector there who wasn't using it. He had bought it from the gentleman that I had spoken to and tracked down, who was able to clarify definitely for sure the mileage. Not that I really needed that, again, because especially when you get inside the car, you'll see the originality. I just can't get enough walking around. The paint overall is outstanding. I had it all polished and corrected when I got it. Absolutely beautiful. This is a car you don't touch cosmetically. You leave it alone as a preservation piece. This is a 4-door hardtop, which I love many times more than a 2-door hardtop. No pillar between the two doors. Just fantastic. Look at the door panels. Just really, really nice. Door panels, door jambs, doors themselves. That gold Mylar is in great shape across the bottom. There's like no wear here on the armrest. 25,000 miles. Door lock. This car's got manual windows, which is fine with me. There's that door jamb. Rocker panel, everything is super, super clean. Now the interior is really cool. It's a two-tone green and white. Obviously fabric here and vinyl here. Yes, that is correct. That's how it was designed. The driver got the two pattern seat, the passenger, the 40%, the 60% was all vinyl. That is correct, factory. These are the original seat covers. Decent shape. I wanted to save them, and my goal here was, because it's so old, you almost feel the springs. You're almost feeling the springs. The original foam under this cover has disintegrated. That's my thought from just age. I was going to have an upholstery guy carefully remove these original covers and re-foam the seats and reinstall the original. I love an original interior. That passenger side door panel is just as nice as the driver's, as is the back seat. Great shape back there. The foam's a little bit better back there, but I was going to do both seat bottoms. Door panel over here, and the headliner is like new. So no issues there as well. The sun visors kind of sag down, which I think is pretty common. Now the elephant in the room, of course, is the Teletouch drive. 58 only. Automatic transmission, electronically controlled with these buttons in the center hub of the steering wheel. Fantastic idea, a little troublesome back in the day. A lot of these that you find for sale nowadays have overridden this, and people have added a floor shift from a Pinto or something. This car still has its original working Teletouch. It works flawlessly. It does appear that some of the relays under the hood that control this have been replaced, so it's very possible that somebody rebuilt that system. It works beautifully. What I read and what I do to help the system and not be so stressed is before I shift from drive to reverse or reverse to drive, I go to neutral. So or any other gear. So if I'm in park and I'm going to go to drive, I'm going to go to get it out of park, I'm going to hit neutral first, and then I'm going to go to drive. And when I want to go to reverse, I'm going to go from drive to neutral and then to reverse. They say that helps. It's less stress on the system. It's a good idea to do. It's probably more of a seamless separation between gears for the electronic servos. So that's what I recommend. If you have a 58 Teletouch, go into neutral before you change gears. You don't have to, but it's highly recommended. 25,002 on the miles. You've got that cool rotunda spinning speedometer, which works. Everything in this car works. The heater works, the wipers work, the lights work, as you can see here. The radio, I get static. I can't get any stations on the radio. I get some, infrequent static. The carpet is original. It's obviously faded and a little discolored, but I love that it's original. Pull this up for you. This aftermarket floor mat, which is period correct. And there's that another Edsel. There's another E. There's the pedals. Obviously a low mileage car. The trunk is nice. I did replace the trunk mat because the original one was so cracked. It was just a rubber mat. I have a picture of that on the website, the data plate. The original rubber floor trunk mat was really cracked and dry and coming apart in chunks. I found a reproduction from Jason Peters out in Mid-Century Motors. He does a nice reproduction trunk mat for these cars. I bought one of those from him. It's in the car. I have pictures of that on my website, and underneath it is clean. It is clean. If anyone's looking for rust, you're looking at the wrong car. So I'm going to start it up for you. We're going to open the hood, and then what we'll do is we'll go back together. I'll take it for a ride back over to my garage across the street. We'll give it a little drive. And I'll give you the pricing on this car. Just absolutely beautiful. Okay, let's start her up. I just put a brand new battery in it. The battery that was in it was deader than disco. Wouldn't even take a jump. I'll help to have the keys out. And then have to find the right key, so bear with me. It'll be the last one I try. There we go. It was the first one I tried. That never happens. Open the hood for you here. I'm going to let you hear that exhaust. Not my favorite. Not horrible, but not what a 58 Edsel Corsair should sound like. It sounds like a muscle car. It does have a big block 400 V8 under the hood. We'll get to that in a minute. It was a Mercury Edsel Lincoln combination of an engine. It wasn't used in Ford products or Fords themselves. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize when I opened the hood I turned off the video, and I was talking to nobody for about another 5 minutes. So here we are. I'm going to try this again. Hood open. 410 cubic inch V8, big block V8. This was an Edsel Mercury and Lincoln combination engine. This engine was used in those three brands only. The Ford labeled products didn't get them. 345 horsepower. This is not a factory emblem. One of the previous owners did that probably for shows. As you can see, it runs and idles very nicely, but very original under here. Master cylinder, radiator looks original. Everything operates. I did a full tune-up with a new fuel pump just recently, new points and wires and condenser and plugs, and I did a new battery, but the car still needs to be brought up a level. And again, a lot of originality under here. New hoses, did do the hoses on the radiator. Power steering leaks. There's a ram in the front of this. There's a piston. It's a hydraulic piston that runs in the front steering linkage that was leaking profusely when I received the car. We disconnected the ram and took the belt off the pump. It was operating, it was just leaking. The pump there. So right now, as we speak, the car is manual steering, which to me is no big deal. I'm used to driving cars with manual steering. The car is equipped with power steering. It just needs that hydraulic ram replaced. They are available online. It was a pretty generic Ford item from that era, and I will include a new one in the sale. Also, the car has a very low brake pedal. I'm sure from sitting, absolutely sure from sitting, I would pull all the wheels off, adjust the brakes, and do some bleeding. Actually, the more I drive this car, the better the brakes get, but they still should be adjusted and checked. This car has been sitting around a lot, not only by me, but our previous owners. 25,000 miles, this car has been more of a garage queen than anything else. I will give it a quick ride. I told you we'd do that. I did that before. You weren't listening because I had shut you off. Slight tick from a lifter there, but again, because the car has been sitting, I've owned the car about 2 years. All right, let's take it for a quick ride around the block here. I'll leave that popped open. So just as I said, I'm going to go from park to neutral to drive. It goes right into drive just like it should. So this is going to be a private party sale, guys. This is not going to go through Orphan Car Garage. This car is titled and registered to me personally. So we're going to do a private party sale on this. And the only reason why I say that is because the last time I sold a car, that was something going on down there. We got some guys driving around. Last time I sold a car that was my own personal name on the title, I sold it through my dealership. It absolutely blew the minds of the registry clerks down in Florida. They could not understand how or why the registered owner could also be, the titled owner could also be the dealer. They could not fathom that. So I ended up having to get a duplicate title, and the gentleman and I did a private party sale, and it took a lot of extra time, and it was ridiculous because it shouldn't have been that way. I'm not going to put the next guy that buys this car or girl through that. We're just going to do a private party sale on this car. My asking price on this beautiful preservation piece will be $18,900. $18,900, and I can get the car shipped to you wherever you may be. We're gonna go across here and park. One more walk around. There's my 1956 Oldsmobile Super 88. I bought that from the grandson of the original owner. That car's got 42,000 original miles on it. Next up is my 1966 Rambler Marlin, AMC Marlin, excuse me. And that car's got 38,000 original miles on it. We just brought that to the Audrain Concours down in Newport. Jay Leno checked it out. Told me I was probably the only guy in the world with a Marlin, and he's probably right, and that's why I like it. So there we go. Again, back to neutral and then park. You don't have to do that. It's just highly recommended. We've got working fuel gauge, working heater, no air conditioning. The clock does not work. It does have a factory clock, and it has a factory compass, which is kind of neat. Speedometer works, the blower works, the lights work. No problem there at all. So $18,900 for my beautiful original 1958 Edsel Corsair. Give me a call, 508-954-8090. Check this car out. on my website, wolfandcargarage.com. About 100 photos of it there. You definitely won't be disappointed. If you're looking for an original unrestored Edsel, I think you just found it. Give me a call. Thank you.